everybody. I'm Andy Bozarth, Community Outreach Director for AARP Kansas. Welcome to the Coffee Chat. I'm joined today by Peggy Steele from Coffeyville, and she's here to talk about Porchology, which is a program they developed in Coffeyville with the benefit of a community challenge grant provided by AARP. Welcome, Peggy.
Thank you. Welcome to you too. Glad to be here.
It's really good to have you here. I know that you've got a lot going on, and I really appreciate you taking time to join us this morning and talk about what wonderful improvements Coffeyville is making in the community to help make it more livable.
Well, sometimes I think I give you guys too much feedback on how much you mean to us, because I do that a lot because I can't tell you what it's meant for us. And we'll go through some of it today, but to have the recognition by a brand that's recognized in Coffeyville, AARP, and then get these two grants for 2 years in a row has been just amazing. So thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It's very well deserved. There are a lot of people who put in applications, grant proposals for the Community Challenge Grant. So it has to be an outstanding idea to actually win. And Coffeyville has won 2 years in a row, making it very unusual as a place that is really committed to making the town a much more livable community and livable for all people. And I want to talk a little bit about the Community Challenge Grants because they will be opening for submissions in February. They're coming soon, and you can find them at aarp.org/community challenge if your community is interested in a small, fast turnaround grant. These are given. You do the proposal in February. You turn around, and in a couple months, the money is there. And then the project needs to be finished by the end of the year. So these are quick turnaround grants for community projects, making a community more livable. And Peggy, you want to tell us a little bit about the two projects that you have done in Coffeyville with the Community Challenge Grant monies?
Absolutely. We did one for 2019 called Walk the Block. And we were able to take a strip of 9th Street in Coffeyville that has a variety of both residential and commercial buildings on it, as well as people who work and live there. And we were able to turn that street using the newly done sidewalk into a 2.5-mile walking path. And so and it encourages people to ride their bikes too, because we've marked it every quarter of a mile. We have kiosks that we put in our community garden and community park, as well as at each end of the track. And those kiosks are information kiosks. And we put a lot of information in, and we're learning how to really use them. Interestingly enough, they seem like simple things to manage, but there's so much that can be done. We're figuring out the best way to use them. So those kiosks can be really valuable. So people get involved, walk the block, and see where they are, can have fun with it. And it's been featured in other presentations. We talked a lot about it last week with our Pathways to Health through a Blue Cross Blue Shield grant that we received. And the Walk the Block path, which will be connected to other trails in Coffeyville and around our county, was featured. So the AARP grant is for a year, but we've designed them so they go on and on. The Porchology grant, which we received last year, really looks at how do you take one project or more and improve a house or a part of a house and create a situation where other people look at it and go, I could do that. Look at that. Because we saw that happening with the actual renovations that we did on 9th Street. But not everybody can afford to totally redo their house, or do they need to? So AARP kindly granted us money to go into neglected neighborhoods and pick porches. We weren't rebuilding porches or adding porches, and we had to take porches we could work with, because 4 porches, it takes a lot of money. Just paint costs a lot of money. And we wanted to do more than 1 or 2. We really wanted to make a splash in these old neighborhoods. So we took 4 different neighborhoods and had a contest, got a lot of people involved, had 12 judges, a lot of press, a lot of media, And those judges picked 4 winners in 4 different neighborhoods, and we'll see some results. Because now not only do we have porches that are livable, they're gathering places. Even with COVID, it really helps to kind of open things up and be out on the porch. And this summer, after COVID's under control, we're going to return and have some porch contests there, and porch concerts and things like that. So we have some pictures to show. Yeah.
That's great. And why don't we take a look? We have a couple videos, and let's take a look at one of the porches.
Okay, great.
Wow, Peggy, that's great. One of the things I really like is how many people you had involved from the community, including the trained volunteers. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got so many people in the community involved?
Well, the homeowners did for that porch. They went to their church and went to their families. And we simply, for 4 porches for a budget, we didn't have the money to do that porch because all of the wood had to be replaced on the decking, and it was hardwood. It wasn't deck wood, which would have been expensive unto itself. And it had to be a special tongue and groove hardwood. And so for all the materials and everything we bought, they really enlisted a lot of the labor. And so we did not have to pay for labor, which was great. So family, friends, church, put out the word, neighbors, and then we helped where we needed expertise to come in and do things. So yeah, it's not where they get the plannings done. It became so late in the year for some of these projects that we could not do landscaping. So we landscaped using what we had purchased and the houses that we could, where it didn't get in the way of the construction. When they get those plants and things in the front, it's going to be gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
I bet it's gorgeous now, even without the plantings.
And the great thing for Coffeyville is that it's located on Walnut, which is a main highway going into Coffeyville. And before it was just kind of that's an interesting porch. The house need work. You didn't really look at it. Now it's a real show place, and it is a gathering place. I mean, it's changed everything for them, for the community, for the neighborhoods. People notice it. They get questions all the time. So
yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And the porch really is an important part of a house. It's the first thing you see in the welcoming place. And I think it's a great idea. Porchology is a wonderful concept. And
Well,
for those of you who are just joining us, welcome to the Coffee Chat. I'm Andy Bozarth, Community Outreach Director for AARP Kansas. I'm joined by Peggy Steele, and we are talking about, she's from Coffeyville, and we're talking about Porchology and what you can do with the AARP Community Challenge Grant. And for those of you just joining us, if you have a comment or a question, please put those into the chat box, and Peggy will be glad to answer any of your questions. And also, I want to go over a little bit about what the Community Challenge Grant is. It is a grant offered by AARP, which is a small grant for quick turnaround projects, making a community more livable. And that opens up a lot of space and interpretation as to what makes the community more livable. We can do technology, you can do spaces that make the community more livable, walking paths. People have all sorts of different ideas on how to make the community more livable. And if you go to aarp.org/community challenge, you'll be able to see a list of all the winners from the past. And you'll be able to put in a grant application in February. They will be opening up very soon. And so Peggy was talking earlier about the fact they did a walking path 2 years ago, and then they received the grant a second year in a row. So if you have more than one idea, put in more than, you can do multiple year grants. You can put those in year after year after year for your ideas. And Peggy is kind enough to share her ideas on how to make your community more livable with all of you out there. And Peggy shared a document with me. Peggy, would you like to talk a little bit about that document?
well, there's a couple things. I think you're going to put one online. And I thought I picked the one sheet out that really gave the overview of what the project was. And for the people who entered it, if folks in the community listening to this, want to look at something in their community to get people to start to fix things up in the neighborhood, that document, they can review it. And I believe you're going to put it on your website online. They can review it and look at it. And if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer questions down the road. It really speaks to people who have a variety of issues with building or rebuilding porches. And the porch you just saw was quite grand, but we also did a porch in the smaller part of town, the older part of town that's very, very neglected. I'd love to show that before we go, because I believe that picture is more important than my words. So
Well, I have that video. Would you like me to show that now?
You bet.
Okay, let me put that on the screen for everybody.
This was a really small porch hidden in an area where nobody did much, and now people are really starting to improve around that porch project.
Okay, here we go. Peggy, that's amazing.
So that's an example of a smaller home. So it doesn't have to be a big grand wraparound porch. It can be, a small porch or an entryway. In fact, one of the things that we did in this extension of the AARP was we had a mini contest in Coffeyville for the best change of a front door. And we had several people enter. And what they did was they just cleaned up the area around their front door and painted doors. And so they got a gift certificate through our community foundation that in fact matched that certificate to our local businesses because they're all, in trouble because of COVID. So that was a triple win all the way around. And the small changes made a big difference in those areas. So this thing is taking a life of its own, and we're thrilled.
It's great. And that house looked like a completely new house.
It really did.
The porch made a tremendous amount of difference. And we have some comments I'd like to share. We have Marin and Mary both saying, hi, Peggy. And a question came in that is, what do you recommend as the best way to enlist volunteers and community partners to work with you on such a project? Great question.
That is a very good question. And with COVID, you can understand we really had challenges because there were many people who wanted to participate who were quite frankly afraid to, be in the process. So we had to really get creative. But I think if we just don't look at COVID as an issue, I think that there's a couple things. The first thing you do in something like this is you look at, the people you already have relationships with. So for our homeowners, one of the things we did when we selected them was part of the project was contingent upon them having, skin in the game, so to speak. So they had to guarantee us that they would be cooperative. It wasn't one of these things where you sit and you watch everybody else doing the work. Yes. So they had to come up and prove to us that they had, friends, family, neighbors who would get involved. The second thing is that media, especially in small towns, if you make it easy for the media and you give them enough so that they can do their job, but it's easier for them. A lot of media, we got lots of people, calling us, asking about it because of all the media and the press coverage we got. And of course, that includes social media. And then the third thing is to make it fun. It's not always fun and it's hard to do, but people don't want to, especially volunteers, and I've had to learn this. They want to be involved in something where they feel on purpose, but it also has to be something when they get up in the morning, they go, oh, good, I get to do that. Not, oh, man. So you make it fun. You try to have, bring them donuts or carrots or whatever is healthy in your community and just, and give them credit. Not false. It's got to be sincere credit. So all of those things really, really make a difference. We had one other, if we have time, did that answer your question?
Yes, that answers the question. Okay. And we do have some time.
Oh, okay. Because I'd like to show that third one because the third one was really an interesting situation. We had a homeowner who's a retired nurse. And just really doesn't get out a lot. She does spend most of her time on her porch, but it was fairly cluttered, which is one of our C's. Our 4 C's to look at are comfort, clutter, color, and code. So those are the 4 things you really have to think about, the 4 C's. So we had all of those issues with her, and we really wanted to do an easier way for her to get up and down the porch. We ended up doing railings, really good railings. We wanted to do a more of a complex project that would involve letting her, with crutches or a cane, which she sometimes has to use, do a railing, but it just didn't work out architecturally. And her house was not up to code because of the fence. So we had the code officer out and we worked with them. So the porch actually extended to changing the front gate area, because without changing that, the porch, we uncluttered, we painted, we did a lot, but you can understand when you see these pictures, we had to change that trellis entry area. It changed everything. So this is a different example.
Okay, here we go. Wow, that is just lovely.
So, I guess the point of all of this is when you talk about AARP's Community Challenge grant, and you talk about it being a small grant, to us, it wasn't a small grant. We took our money and we were able to really leverage it and change 4 porches. And really any one of those porches could have cost as much as our whole grant if we hadn't had volunteers, if we hadn't gotten discounts and deals from some of our local businesses. And that really helped a lot. But the fast turnaround helps too. So if you really get it together, the fast turnaround is a positive. And I will have to say AARP is extremely easy to work with. Having, gained more experience with grants, I would say on a continuum, you guys are the easiest, most trusting. There's accountability there. You want to know what's going on, but you get out of the way and let us make it happen. And we appreciate that. So I would encourage people to join. I mean, to look that up and to enter. And I think your point about being creative, really look at, what you can do to not only do the project and make your community better and more inviting, but how can you then pay it forward and transfer that over to, other areas in your town or other communities? If we all do that, imagine what it would be like. It would be great. So
you have been great about paying it forward, Peggy. We really appreciate having you on the coffee chat and your willingness to share what you've learned with other communities and other people so they can also get the challenge grant is really kind of you. We appreciate that much.
It's a world of abundance, isn't it? I mean,
it is a world of abundance.
So
yes,
that changes everything when you look at it like that. So.
Yes. And for those of you who are interested in applying for the Community Challenge Grant from AARP, again, it is a fast turnaround grant. The projects, you can start applying in February at the website aarp.org/community challenge, and it will be opening very soon. And these are reasonably small grants for projects that are quick turnaround projects that would be done by the end of the year. So go to aarp.org/community challenge for more information on that. And Peggy, we're coming to the end of our time, so what would be your last words of encouragement for people?
I would say that you can make a difference and to not hold back and just take that first step and paint your door and talk to a neighbor, get them to paint the door, and then see what happens because people start seeing it and they make changes. So go for it.
Oh, that's wonderful, wonderful advice. So thank you again, Peggy. Thank you to those of you who joined us here on the Coffee Chat. We'll see you again next week when we discuss romance scams. Ooh. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.